I can remember my own graduation, which is not that long ago, although one of my teens did ask me a couple of weeks ago if there were computers in my high school. So I was like, I'm not that old. I'm not Randy Thomas. I remember my graduation because my graduation was a very special day for me. It was a day where I made my father cry because I graduated. I succeeded where he didn't because he didn't graduate high school. He was so proud that I had. And this is the same thing that we have coming to the celebration every year. It is an accomplishment to graduate high school. Is it the most major accomplishment you're going to have in your life? I hope not. I hope your bar is set a lot higher than graduating high school. But it is an accomplishment. You did do it. You are finished. Now what? Where do we go from here? I am not a big song person. You can ask the teens in the car. I usually have my Bluetooth in, and I'm listening to a podcast. I'm listening to a debate. I'm listening to a book. I don't do a lot of music. My kids listen to music. They love music. My wife loves music. I don't get into it. I don't know why. I just don't. However, there's a song that came out not too long ago that has really been on my mind the last couple of months, mainly because of the stuff my family's gone through, but it also applies to looking forward in life. The song's called One Day. And the song goes like this. One day there'll be no more waiting left for our souls. One day there'll be no more children longing for hope. One day when the kingdom comes right here where we stand, we will see the promised land. One day there'll be no more lives taken too soon. One day there'll be no more need for a hospital room. One day, every tear that falls will be wiped by his hand. We will see the promised land. One day, there'll be no more anger left in our eyes. One day, the color of our skin won't cause a divide. One day, we'll be family standing hand in hand, and we will see the promised land. Last year, our graduates went through something where the entire world seemed to shut down. This year, our graduates started the year off not knowing what was going to happen. They were just as affected as last year's graduates. And they were wondering what's going to happen. What will the future be like? How are we going to go from here, from what happened last year to what's starting off this year? Luckily, sports started going again. The choir was able to compete, and we were able to get back to our relative normal lives. But the effect it has is still lingering. We have people that still don't want to get out of their houses. We have people that are still afraid to do things. But one day, we won't have that anymore. How do we get to that one day? How do we get to the point where we can look past where we're at now and stand firm on where we're going to be? We've heard it said in the Bible, life is a race. Paul tells us that, talks about that a lot. What type of race is it? Is it a race that I am running by myself? No. It's a race we're all running together. Some of us will reach the finish line before others. But we are all running the same race, and we are all going to the same destination. I ran a half marathon, and I ran it with a whole bunch of other people, and I had no business running it. I really didn't. You were supposed to finish the race in 4 hours, and I finished in 4 hours and 5 minutes. But I finished. I refused not to. I am that pig-headed. But we are like that in a marathon race of life. You don't run it by yourself. It isn't looking back and seeing if you're beating those next to you. It is running with those around you. Sometimes you'll go up further, and sometimes you have to talk with those around you and encourage them and bring them along. Sometimes you need to be encouraged and brought along by those around you. You need to figure your niche out and stay with it. We need to make sure to keep God in our lives. Reading the Bible, prayer time, staying connected with other believers. It's been wonderful to be back in church. When we've been, I say that because not every church is back. Not every church is back to running services every Sunday, having midweek services. The kids club didn't meet. The youth group hasn't met yet. There are churches out there that are still shut down and still doing online only. We have been back since what, July of last year? August? May? I was going to say the youth group took 4 weeks off, I think, before they revolted and told me to get them back in the building because they didn't like the online stuff. We have been together. We have been worshiping, and it has been wonderful. Not that the online stuff wasn't bad. Paul did a great job with that, and I had to edit a bunch of stuff, so I didn't like that aspect of the job. But there is something to say of getting together with believers. Finding a group of people that you can talk to. When you're going through struggles, they will pray with you and for you. Sometimes you need that in your life, and don't be afraid to ask for it. Find those groups. We also need to remember who God is. God came down from heaven to earth as a human being, as a baby. I sometimes have this block in my mind of God being human. I always remember God as God, all-powerful, omnipotent. He can do anything he wants to. But then I remember Jesus having his best friend refuse to acknowledge his presence. His earthly father dying. Having to be hung on a cross for a thing he did not commit. He was not a criminal, and yet he stood there hanging on the cross in front of his mother and his brother and sisters. I don't like to be accused of stuff I didn't do, but I'm not even put on a criminal's cross for it, and he was. First Peter 2:23 says, when they hurled insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. Can that be said about us? Can we remember that Jesus was insulted, he was spit at. Everything that could be said about us in our lives today was said about Jesus. And yet, how did he handle those situations? Did he get upset? Did he lose his temper? Did he throw things? Or did he realize that what they were saying wasn't the problem? It's who was helping them to say it. Our battle isn't against flesh and blood. It's against the powers of darkness. People will say things, especially you graduates. Your life's just beginning. People are going to say things. How are you going to reply to them? Are you going to be able to hold your head high and take it with grace? Because it is grace that allows you not to retaliate. It is grace that allows you to turn the other cheek. And don't get me wrong, there is a time to stand up for what you believe in. There is a time to say things to people. I mean, Jesus himself turned the tables at the temple. And I got in trouble one time because I made the fact that Jesus was probably angry when he did it. And somebody said, it doesn't say that in the Bible. I'm like, yes, so in the Bible, he's smiling a bunch as he's turning the tables in the temple. I have a hard time picturing that. What they were doing was wrong, and Jesus corrected them. But he didn't do it out of anger. He didn't do it out of malice. He didn't do it out of hatred for that person. He did it because it needed to be done. You will face those situations in your life. Somebody's saying something that goes absolutely against what you stand for, and you will need to make that stand. You will need to remember that your life isn't here, you are looking ahead. to what your life will be, catching up with those who are ahead of us. Joshua chapter 1, verse 7 says, "Be strong and courageous. Be careful to obey all the laws the servant David has given you. Do not turn from the right or to the left, that you may be successful in whatever you do." Those of you who've grown up in the church, you know the laws. We have a wonderful kids program here. We have an okay youth pastor. We have an awesome pastor who teaches from the Bible every single week. Sunday school teachers who teach us what the Bible says. And now it's our job to live that out. It's not easy. Anybody who tells you it's easy is probably lying to you. Because you will probably lose friends over your beliefs. Especially if you're going into college. They are not a safe haven for Christian beliefs anymore, if they could ever be argued that they were at one point. You will have to make a stand. So where's your stand going to be? Are you going to focus on being comfortable, or are you going to focus on what's ahead after this life? My wife's grandfather passed away recently. I wasn't the closest to him by any means. But my 4 kids were his great-grandchildren, and they all grew up with him. Matthew and Michael, he taught their Sunday school class. Allison, we got called to this church, so her and Mark didn't grow up with him like Matthew and Michael did. But when we remember that we have more to this life, we have to remember there are people like Jim Downing waiting for us in heaven. He's already finished the race. He is in paradise. He is waiting for those of us to catch up with him. Now, we're all hoping it's a big, long wait that he has to take place. We don't want to rush our way to him, but we need to be able to run the race to him. We have lost a lot of people in the church lately, it seems like. Godly people, people who nobody has a shadow of a doubt in their mind where they are now. Are we running our race to catch them? Are we looking forward to the time we get to spend with them again? Or are we focused on what's going on in the world around us today? Too focused on our politics, on our music, on our movies, on our social lives, on social media? Or are we looking forward to what life will be like in the end? I know it's not the most uplifting graduation service, but it's something that hurts when you don't succeed in it. Something that hurts when you begin to fall behind or you begin to take a different route. We're in this together. If you need help, ask. If you need nudged, let us know. If you need pulled, we can